Hello, I'm Bliznub, and welcome to Building the Best. Today we're going to be looking at the Staticor, a truly ridiculous weapon, so just brace yourselves. Now the Staticor is at its core, I apologize for nothing, just a radiation cannon. It shoots little AoEs of radiation damage with a very high status chance, meaning that it's at its very least incredibly entertaining for spreading chaos in a group of enemies, but it actually has a very fast fire rate, high magazine size, reload speed, and a very unique special, well, I suppose it's not really a special ability, but you can charge the weapon up, and when you do, the projectile becomes slower, but larger, more powerful, and has a greater AoE. And honestly, it is incredibly good. Now, the charge rate is actually fairly poor, but that can be improved with any fire rate mod and will be improved with Lethal Torrent. The accuracy is very good on this weapon, and the crit isn't even worth mentioning. So we're basically building this into a status damage weapon with a little pinch of fire rate provided by Lethal Torrent to really bring it all together. And so we get this, a pretty much pure damage build, but with a little bit of status chance thrown in to get our status up to this delightful 96%. Now we start off with Hornet Strike, Barrel Diffusion, and Lethal Torrent, of course. This gives us a fire rate of 5.6, which is pretty good, and it lowers our charge rate to 1.8 if we do want to use charge attacks. We have Primed Heated Charge, because Primed Heated Charge, and then we have 4 elemental mods. Now, with these 4 elemental mods, it doesn't matter how many are status chance mods for... Okay, things falling over in the house. Doesn't matter how many are status chance mods for this particular build. Personally, I would go for 2 status chance and 2 standard elements. The only thing you have to bear in mind is that your status chance will drop by a little bit with each one you remove, and honestly, I think having 2 on at least is decent, simply because this 90% status chance is very solid. Now bear in mind you're shooting 3 projectiles with Barrel Diffusion and Lethal Torrent, so the weapon is doing a lot in terms of status. You'll be getting multiple procs per shot without a doubt. As always, pick whatever damage type you particularly prefer, but one thing to remember with this is that when you do have base radiation damage, which is, say, a base combined element, you can have 3 combined elements on a weapon. So here I have Blast, Radiation, Corrosive. And the combo of Radiation and Corrosive means that Grineer are just a joke for this weapon. But I'm actually going to switch over to... How do I do it? There we go. Gas, Radiation, Magnetic, with a majority in gas damage, obviously, because of Primed Heated Charge. I can change that by putting Convulsion on here, and there we go. Now we have a decent balance of gas and magnetic, because I'm going to be taking this weapon up against some Corpus. And honestly, we're looking at almost 4,000 damage here, with ridiculously high status chance. Like I say, it would cost me 2 more Former, which is why I didn't go for it, but I could have another 11 point mod, a 90% elemental over here, and it would be ridiculously powerful. Well over 4,000 damage. But this weapon, I think the sweet spot is probably 90% status chance and the 290% elementals up here. Let's go try this thing out, because I do tend to talk about these weapons. Why am I wearing Ember? That's for a different video. I do tend to talk about these weapons a lot more than I tend to demonstrate them, so let's try this thing out. And for that, what is the... Oh, an interception. Yeah, why not? Why not? We'll have a lot of enemies at the very least. So, with the Staticor, you do get a lot of damage increase from charging the weapon down, but as you can see in a second, I personally don't think that's worthwhile. Now, hopefully I'll be out of audible range, but simply put, it takes this long to charge and fire with just Lethal Torrent, and the projectile moves extremely slowly, whereas if you just tap fire, the projectile moves very quickly, and you can, whilst you do get a lot of screen shake doing it, fire quite a lot. Now the other thing to keep in mind, if you look at my ammo counter down the bottom right, is as I charge, it costs energy per second, and as I keep it charged, it also costs energy per second, which can of course be cancelled by reloading, or by pressing the reload key. And so it can get very expensive to use the charge build on this, and whilst it is very effective for taking out heavy health, high health targets, high priority targets maybe, honestly, this weapon is best used as a little spam weapon, providing massive amounts of AoE radial elemental effects. Like that one there. And so, as you can see, it easily one-shots these guys. So I am hoping I get a few slightly tougher enemies in a minute. But I personally like to tap fire this weapon for some absolute chaos. And let's just hop up here and cap one of these points so we can get some corpus. But honestly, this weapon is ridiculously fun, and it can work very well for a charge build. It's just not my personal preference. There is also one other downside to charging the weapon, which I'll just demonstrate over here, which is if you have the weapon charged and you touch an enemy, you instantly discharge the weapon for far less damage than the charge shot would have done, and it has guaranteed knockdown, but like I say, the damage is far less than the actual shot itself would have provided, so it's essentially just a waste of ammunition. As you can see on these corpus, it is just brutal for... I really wish there were more enemies. It is just brutal for tearing through enemies. And I want to go and beat up that bomb... that nullifier. And it's dealing insane amounts of damage, and I can happily say this weapon can deal with pretty much anything you throw at it. I've taken this up against everything. The only thing it does struggle with, ironically, is Infested, because they run up to you and cause you to discharge the weapon forcibly, which is somewhat of a downside, but hey-ho. Oh, wow. Stay invisible whilst recording. I always forget that one. You can see, even if we don't manage to kill an enemy instantly, we're getting ridiculous amounts of procs, and the fire rate of this weapon is absolutely insane. And as always, you can perform the age-old trick, if you want a slightly more fire rate than you can click, of binding in the key bindings. Hold up. Controls, that's what I'm looking for. Key bindings, fire weapon, bind that to mouse wheel up or down, and then just scroll your mouse wheel. It is ridiculously effective, and this is me firing with the mouse wheel. I prefer not to, because it almost feels cheatsy to be able to pump out fire just that fast, but it is ridiculously good. It also means if you want to fire off one shot without charging too much, you can. But anyhow, that's really all I have to... Wow, I went on for longer than I thought. I really do enjoy this weapon quite a lot. Whilst it may not be my favourite secondary, it's definitely one of the most fun ones I've played with. So anyhow, that's really all I have to say about it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, like and comment below if you want to see more. Wait, no. Like and comment below and subscribe if you want to see more. I promise I'll get that right eventually. I'm Bliznub, and this is the Staticor.